how we can get back to word, to return to faith in ourselves. And when you have faith in yourself, you can overcome anything. That's why my grandmother and my father says, in life, it's just full of magic. And the thing is you curse yourself or you free yourself with this magic. And the magic is done with the power of the word. What is your belief system? If you like your dream, continue. But if you don't like it, you have the power to break that curse and break the excuses, justifications, and start a new dream. And this is one of the things that the Toltec word offers. It offers a blank canvas so you can start over and not create from the...
Now for today's episode, my special guest, Don Jose Ruiz, is a Toltec master of transformation and a modern-day shaman. He is a direct descendant of the Toltecs of the Eagle Knight lineage and is the son of Don Miguel Ruiz, author of the New York Times bestseller, Thefouragreements. He is the author of the Fifth Agreement, co-authored with his father, Ripples of Wisdom, and my good friend, the Rattlesnake, The Wisdom of the Shamans, The Medicine Bag, and his newest book released this month, Shamanic Power Animals. Don Jose Ruiz was born in Mexico City and raised in Tijuana, Mexico. When he was 21, he came to the United States to live with his father, Don Miguel Ruiz. He lectures and gives workshops around the world and dedicates his life to sharing the ancient Toltec wisdom by translating it into practical, everyday life, sharing the ancient Toltec wisdom by translating into practical, everyday life concepts that promote transformation through truth, love, and common sense. Okay, well, Don Jose Ruiz, this is such an honor. Like I said, I'm so thankful to share this space with you. This is just going to be such a beautiful conversation. I know you're going to provide so much wisdom and value today. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Sister Erica. Very happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Well, I know many people know your father's work. Of course, it's probably one of the best-selling books of all time since it came out, which is the Thefouragreements. I think if you're not living under a rock, you've heard of the Thefouragreements. If you are living under the rock, you will now be introduced to what the Thefouragreements is, which is taught by your father, Don Miguel Ruiz. And you carry this family tradition through your own books, you and your brother, which I had on earlier this week. So I know a lot of people are going to be really intrigued to hear his episode as well. So let's just start there. So I did ask your brother about the Toltec tradition, so I don't want you to have to re-explain this because, again, I want people to listen to both episodes. But in your own words, because I know the Toltec, what it means is the artist or artist. So how did you, if you want to say, what has been your journey to discover your art?
The artist that we all are artists, but it's the intent that drives us. It's the intent, not the intention. The intention is just a mind that blocks itself. But when you have an intent, you have a purpose in life. And it's when you begin to surrender to life and, express from the heart, whatever it is. So when we begin to unlearn what takes our inspiration away, we value and have faith to, our true selves, what we're here in life to do. And it's to express ourselves just like a tree that gives fruit. We're here to give, our art. The beautiful thing about the Toltec is how are we going to do it? How are we going to express it? Because we all have our own unique way.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the books that both or all of you have served onto us is it's interpreted in your own words and expressed in your own words, right? And it's also easily, what I loved about the Thefouragreements especially is anybody could read it and understand it. It's very common sense. And so now I know this is one of your oldest books, as we mentioned, which is the Fifth Agreement, but I do want to cover starting with the Thefouragreements, just so everybody kind of gets a grasp of what the foundational pieces of these agreements are. And then, moving into the Fifth Agreement, which you wrote this book with your father. So starting there, if we could kind of just lay down the foundation of what the Thefouragreements are, and if you could just just explain them into a little depth, just so people could understand.
Yes, the Thefouragreements is something that my father looked into the mirror so he can express himself so gratefully. And then he passed it to the family tradition that we carry now. But it's about breaking all agreements. And because it's all agreements that don't make us happy. So when he began talking about the foundation of any story is based by words. So we're not impeccable with the word, which is the first agreement, or, we're going to live a nightmare. We're not going to live our dream. So when we're impeccable with the word, it's like taking our power back. It's like meaning what we say. And when we realize that we talk with, when misuse the word, and we can live a lie, and we're not going to feel authentic. So when we're impeccable with the word, it's an action of respect that leads us to the second agreement. That is, don't take things personal. Because imagine if we don't take ourselves personal for everything we do. We're programmed to suffer, to make everything our problem. It has nothing to do with us. Some people suffering outside, we think that is ours, but it's not. And the beautiful thing is that when we begin realizing this power within us with our word, saying, okay, I have the power of prayer in me. And then I want to take myself personal. I want to be the scorpion that stings itself with his own tail. I want to hurt myself with my own word. And then I begin to respect the love of my life. And now respecting the love of my life is not suppressing the voice, because I believe that, whether you're female or male, your life, and you carry Mother Earth's body. So by not suppressing Mother Earth, you have a voice, and let's not make assumptions, to speak what you feel, to not assume what's going on, to take it personal, to misuse the word. No. And the fourth agreement is my father's favorite agreement, because without them, none of them will have life. And it's always do our best. So the gift of this fourth agreement is that how can we judge ourselves when we do our best? And that's when we discover that we're addicted to suffering, that is never enough. So when we feel that we're service to the love of our life, is when we are service to Mother Earth and to ourselves. So when I was in my training with my father, I said, Father, I understand these agreements and I have to unlearn them. But something that helps me unlearn them is something that I read in the Voice of Knowledge. Do not believe you, do not believe myself, and do not believe anybody else. That I got the epiphany to be skeptical of my own negativity, skeptical of my excuses, of my justifications, and I begin listening to my heart. So the fifth agreement is based in all the four agreements to take action, is to be skeptical but learn to listen. Are we in integrity or we're not in integrity? And everything is common sense, but we like to make it so complicated to not change. So when we get to the fifth agreement, it's because now we're our own master, we're our own teacher, and we're our own guide. Because like my brother explains in one of his teachings, my obligation as a parent is to teach my children to live without me. And this is one of the beautiful things about our elders. They teach us this to go forward and to make a new agreement of how we overcame life. And this is how my father created the four agreements. He passed the Toltec tradition, took the superstition out, but took what is really important. And that's why this message can be heard in 40 different languages, different religions, because it's an artist's way of life. And when we talk about artists, we're not talking about the Toltecs of 2,500 years ago. We're talking about the artists of today, because we're the ones carrying the torch now.
Beautiful. And actually, I think you forgot the third agreement, which was do not make assumptions. Can you explain that one? Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one that I speak about, to having a voice. Because if we make assumptions, we assume that our partner's cheating on us or they're talking bad about us. But what if we have a voice and we're not suppressing our own voice? We're not suppressing Divine Mother Earth. We're now really going for it. We're really now saying, okay, I have a voice, it needs to be heard, and I have a doubt. Instead of me making stories that are not real, let's go with the person and ask the question. And it's like a little kid asked me once when I went to Detroit to this school. And these little kids from the 6th grade, 7th grade were reading the Four Agreements, and they asked them, what is your favorite agreement? And the little kid responded, it's the third one, do not make assumptions. Why? It's because this kid assumed that I'm this way and this way, but I'm not this way. I want to play with them. What can they just ask me?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. So going into those agreements, so the first one, be impeccable with your word. Our word is so powerful. And that's what I think is so great to pull out, is that the way we express ourselves is through our words. But you mention a lot in the book, symbols. Why are symbols the one thing you mentioned so much in the book? And what does symbols mean in the Toltec tradition?
Well, symbols is where we put our faith in. So if the symbol represents one word, what are we putting our faith in? And a little example. One time my father was teaching me over the Greek mythologies when we were in Teotihuacan in the pyramids of Mexico. And he said this story about the Greeks talking among themselves and saying, we will only live until the humans believe in us, the gods we're talking about. And then he asked me, what gods are you believing in, my son? The god of guilt, the guilt of shame, and all those guilt and shame, they're symbols. So we give power to them. That's all we're going to see. That's all we're going to feel until we take our power back and we stop praying to those gods. So when we put people down, when we put ourselves down, it's a symbol of disrespect. And then we overcome that symbol and we find a symbol of respect. And that's how we're going to live our life. So, in my point of view, all religions, all traditions are beautiful. And all of them, they have distortion to not, confront the truth. But the moment that you are consciously aware, you can see through all the religions, all the beautiful things, because you see it in yourself. So whatever symbol you have faith in, go all the way and respect it. And that's the beautiful thing about creating symbols now, because the symbols that we're creating now, we're teaching it to the little ones. And it's not a form of a painting. It's how we live our life, because we can tell them everything, not to do or what to do. But if we don't show an example, that's what they're going to learn. So the power of symbol is a way of the action. And one of my favorite symbols is the Tibetan ones, when they do the sun mandala in prayer. And when they're done, they blow it, because that's the beautiful thing about life, to create beauty. And, that's what we're here for. That's the symbols of our...
What symbol was that? Sorry.
The Tibetan sun mandala.
I don't know what that looks like.
Yes, the Tibetan sun mandala is monks getting together and doing prayers for weeks. And they get dust, the colorful dust, and they create this beautiful, art form just with dust. And they do a prayer with sand dust. And when the prayer is done, they blow it away, because it's not the finishing product. It's the intention that they made to make it. So our life becomes the greatest symbol. So we can see all our ancestors, all our elders, like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, even going to the great Quetzalcoatl in our tradition. They were a symbol for humanity that, if they can do it, we can do it as well. And what we're here for freedom. And this is the personal freedom that we talk about, the Thefouragreements and the Toltec work.
Beautiful. And then going back to the word, so how do our words form our beliefs?
Well, the words is the foundation of any story. To create a story, you have to use words. But how are you using the words? Are you using the words with victimization, with hate, or with power? And this is one thing, when you read the book, the Thefouragreements, you can read that there's integrity in each word, that it almost becomes a mirror that you see yourself. Because I remember when I first read the Thefouragreements, I said, Father, I know this information. And he puts a big smile and he says, of course you know it, everyone knows it. Because it's integrity talking to your integrity. And when you talk to your integrity, you know what's that integrity for you. So that's why I say that in the Toltec tradition, there's nothing to learn but to unlearn what takes our inspiration away. The inspiration to live life, the inspiration to be. So the word is a very important symbol. And some people give power to the word, but no. The power of the word is that you use it to communicate to one another. It's not the truth. The truth of every word is what we have inside, what we put into that container. In the Christianity, they call it the Holy Grail, where we put our soul into that cup and we drink it and we become eternal. And this is the beautiful thing about the power of the word. When we really put our heart into it, it's the foundation of any kind of story. Now we look into our own life. What story are we telling ourselves? Oh, this happened to me 20 years ago, a dream of suffering, and I continue to contaminate and corrupt the word by keeping that old dream alive. But if I wanted to forgive what happened 20 years ago, so it no longer affects my life, I take my power back and I use the word in the act of forgiveness. So it's not about being a parrot of what forgiveness means. It's about feeling that you want to be forgiven or forgive to somebody. And so you'll not have that curse, that heavy in your life anymore. Because at the end of the day, to speak the word, to communicate with the word, is like the Egyptians say, in order to enter heaven, your heart must be light as a feather. If your heart is not light as a feather, you may never enter heaven. And of course, they're not talking about the heart of the feather, talking a mythology, a metaphor that, if we're not impeccable with our word, our life will not be heavy. We're going to have drama in our head. We're going to have chaos in our head. And we're going to have the addiction of suffering continuing a life, passing into the next generations. That's why when we have the power of our word in our heart, we cannot be, fooled anymore by ourselves. And this is when we come back to respect. We respect the word. Now we're going to create from now on. Whatever happened in the past is gone. What's happening now is important, and what's going to happen in the future is not built yet. So from right now, we're tearing down an old dream and rebuilding it with the power of a word. It's like awakening from a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about this all the time, limiting beliefs, and we get so attached to this mindset, the words we tell ourselves, and it creates this suffering, as you're mentioning. And I think and I mentioned this before, I think one of the foundational pieces is awareness, because the only way we could intentionally change something is bring awareness to what is going on. What are these stories we tell ourselves? And so I think that's so important. So kind of, we'll go back to the agreements, but I actually want to ask you, because you came from, you had your own, if you want to say, trauma in your life before you made this transitional change in living this family tradition of the Toltec tradition. So can you kind of share your journey before, leading your life this way and being aware of what is torturing you and how you transitioned out of that?
Yes, it's like I say, any plant comes out of darkness when it's a seed. But just because it grows to the light, it doesn't leave darkness. It's always reminded that it always has a root in darkness, to be remembering where it comes from, to be humble, to be grateful to oneself. And when I was young, I remember I wanted to grow up so fast, wanted to grow up, for the pure pressures in my neighborhood, and wanted to grow up with my cousins, who were, drinking or whatever, partying. They were older. I look at them, but I wanted to grow up fast. So one day I went to a ceremony with the elders with a different tradition. And the only one who could speak was the one holding the red leather with an eagle feather. And they were passing that stick around, and that's the only one who could speak. And all I heard, sister, was stories of suffering and victimization, of drama. So in my little head from 11-year-old, in order to grow up, you have to have drama, you have to have victimization. And you hear it in the music, you see it in the movies, you see it in the stories that they're told in the books. So I went to look for that. I went to look for my own breaking heart. And then when I got my first heartbreak, and then I got my grandfather passed away, all of a sudden I went into that dream, and I got into drug addiction. And into drug addiction, my first drug was crystal meth. And that was the biggest hell that I ever went inside. In the beginning, I didn't know that I was going inside until bad things begin happening. One of my best friends passed away. I got abused sexually in that dream, and then I just wanted to change. But when that happened, I went even deeper in the judgment. So from that point on, I got 1 point of awareness in and 1 point of awareness out. I couldn't balance either one. I was loving Jose and I was hurting Jose. I was like in a cycle, until one day I had an epiphany that I have to change my life. And I went cold turkey, and I went to my father, the kind of life that I was living. And then I left my old city behind. And it took a lot of power, a lot of willpower, but a lot of honesty. If I wasn't honest with myself, I couldn't be honest with my father. And I could look at myself. So I was ready to unlearn that. But yet again, I was still hiding. I was still wearing a mask, thinking, if I only get married, if I only have a family, everything will be better. But no, I entered a dream, not healing myself. And I married somebody who wasn't healed themselves. And it became a matrimonial disrespect. And I was there for guilt and shame for many times. I even went blind because of the drugs that I used when I was younger. I went cold turkey, but I went to get a dentist and I got blinded, but my eyesight came back. And after that, I still was in that relationship because I was driven by guilt. I couldn't leave this person because what would that person do without me? And I'm in a pain that I'm used to. And then something happened when my grandmother passed away. I had a dream that she said, if you want son, I take you with me. And that's when I woke up and I saw the epiphany. I saw the person that I love using me to hurt herself. And then I saw also that she was hurting herself with me. And if I really love this person, it's time for me to walk away. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. I love her so much that I will no longer permit by guilt to let her hurt herself with myself. So I walked away. And in that moment, I really understood all the teachings because the balance became more powerful. And this is when the fifth agreement got built, because I started doing something when my father went into a coma. He got a heart attack, he went to a coma, and I had this awareness now that I even attempted suicide and I almost died, but I didn't die. And I saw my selfishness that 3 months later, my father came back, went to a coma, and I was like 2 weeks like this. And it's when I got the teachings of the angel training, the messenger training, teaching that he tried to teach. that he said that everybody doesn't want this. Everybody wants ABC. It's like I'm talking to a wall, so I put these teachings away. So I said, out of respect and for myself, I want to learn. I didn't know if I was going to see him again, but I wanted to change my dream. So in that, I began doing the angel training. I began sharing it. I began learning it. And he came back from coma. And my life began to change ever since, sister, because I did something I never thought that I would be. I was co-teaching Toltec with my father, that he came back, and with my grandmother. So we were 3 generations. So when the publisher came to visit us, she said, "This is the 5th agreement." I never dreamed about writing a book. I never dreamed about writing books. All I care for is to come back home. And I never forget about the darkness that it's still in me, but I overcome it because I'm grateful to be alive. And ever since, every day that passes, I make this prayer, may God protect me from myself, because no matter how much awareness you have, it will only take one bad day to you to give yourself the power. And this is where I come back now for the impeccability of the word. I have to be really careful how I use the word, because the word can go against me or against life. So now I notice that this body that I carry is not Jose's body, it's Mother Earth's body. And everybody has Mother Earth's body. It's like waking up from a nightmare of excuses and justifications, that I even went even deeper to protect the animals. And because they also have right to live like I do, because they have the same eyes that I did when I woke up from my blindness. So from this point, it's the service of life. And I tell you, every time you do good, you feel good. And like Abraham Lincoln says, if I do bad, I feel bad. But when you begin doing good and you have your conscience awakened, there's nothing to be. There's no perfection to be, because perfection is just to be alive, because it's life that we're living. So now I can understand my father in the Thefouragreements when he explains, imagine you're the only sober person when everybody's completely drunk. So I understand now that I can be ruined by my life by victimization. This happened to me, but it's not happening to me anymore. And I can see many people using the justifications to not change, that I cannot have a voice, that, that I cannot be happy. And those are just excuses, because they're believing, like my father's new book, The Actor, they're believing the script that they once had. And imagine being an actor, always holding on to the same script. No, it comes a point that you don't believe your own negativity. And that's what the 5th agreement is all about.
Beautiful. And thank you for sharing your story and where you came from and how it transitioned. And it seems like it was overnight, but I know that is not in reality what it was. And I'm sure you hit a lot of walls as you started to transition into this new mindset and release all the victimhood of your old story. What do you feel is the hardest struggle for people in these agreements? Like, what would be the agreement that is most difficult for people to implement into their life?
The 2nd agreement, don't take things personal, because this is when we lose respect to life. And we are life, and we disrespect ourselves all the time. This is the most agreement. And when we disrespect ourselves, we're disrespecting Mother Earth. It's like the Virgin of Guadalupe, the symbol of that. The little angel holding her is our mind. Is a powerful mind, the one who uses the words. The body of the Virgin of Guadalupe is our human body. So when we take things personal, we're hurting her. And it's like, imagine that, my body is this little puppy. What fault that this little puppy has for what's going on in my head? If I have a bad day, will I scream at the puppy? Will I abuse the puppy? Will I give him tequila because I don't want to feel? It comes a point where I really respect this beautiful puppy, because I begin respecting my body as well. And this is, if I take myself personal, I'm going to hurt the puppy, because I will use any justification, any excuse to hurt it. And then I will not see the truth, because I don't want to see the truth. That's the important thing about not taking things personal, is that you accept your truth. Because when you accept the truth, like you said earlier, you have awareness of what you want to change, not what you need to change, what you want to change in your life.
Yeah. And that was the beautiful choice that you made. You're like, no more of this. There's something that needs to change. And that awareness is with awareness comes action, if you choose, right?
Yes.
And there's such freedom in when you release that when you don't take things personal, there's such freedom, like you release all the chains around you, because truthfully, people are generally focused on themselves. That is really the truth. Of course, a lot of people are giving and compassionate, but in the end of things, we do think a lot about ourselves. So if we think so many people are focused on us, that's not the reality, and that's not the truth. So there's such freedom in not taking things personal, and just living our, as you say, our dream. And I know mentioned in the book so often, in all the books, there's this wording, the dream of the planet. Can you explain what the dream of the planet means?
Yes, the dream of the planet means, for me, is not planet Earth dreaming, because she just life. It's the dream of humanity and what we made of it. That's why there's a powerful voice in Christianity saying, "Forgive them, Father, they do not know what they do." They're dreaming their dream. Like right now, you can see in the politician world, in the greedy world, in the power of money, or the power to become somebody, in the dream of the planet tells you you're nobody until you become somebody. Imagine a little ant believing that, or a little puppy believing that they have to be somebody to be loved. And this is the thing that we do in life. We believe the dream of the planet. And this is why I said earlier, imagine that you're the only sober person in a room where everybody completely drunk of what they have to be somebody, they have to become, that they even sacrifice their dreams, the love of their life, and to become perfect for an illusion. And then they get trapped and go, this is not happiness. That you can see many people, supposedly successful actors or musicians that, have all the fame and they're everywhere. And they become hell because they said, this is not happiness. I wish I could tell everybody this is not happiness, but it's not. It's just something that we set a goal to be, but it's not really happiness. So happiness is that you are the love of your life. And no one has the right to disrespect you and hurt you. And that includes yourself. From that moment on, you can see that you wake up from the dream of the planet, because you wake up in the world of the humanity, how they hurt themselves. And this is what one person believes, that is the war of the gods. That is the war of belief. My dream is better than your dream. And, when you come to humbleness, you believe in yourself is powerful. But when you believe that you're more better than somebody else, that's ego. And that's machismo. And this machismo has been the curse on humanity that suppressed divine women, the genocide that happened, because Divine Mother has been the most powerful being in the planet. Why? Because it's the one who gives birth to us. So, back in the past, they suppressed this dream. And that's the dream of the planet right there.
What's machismo?
Machismo is when, there's this male energy that suppressed the woman, someone who makes a fake mask and, that is just suppressing everything that he has. It's like my brother talks about, we don't come in peace, we want to suppress. And many people live suppressed, that they don't even have their own voice anymore. And then they teach that to the little people, to the little kids. And this is the dream of the planet where it stands. It's a dream of suppression. And you can still see it now alive in the world, in the news. You can still see it, that it has never changed. But many people have woken up because they see that. So when my grandmother passed away, she smiled and says, I'm so happy that you guys, your generation that you're going to be in, they're going to see the return of Divine Mother Earth coming in. And sister, I've seen it in the little ones, in the 20-year-olds. They're changing a whole mindset that the machismo dream is no longer going to survive. And the dream of suppression, should I say, in the English word. And this is one of the most beautiful things, how we can get back to word, to return to faith in ourselves. And when you have faith in yourself, you can overcome anything. That's why my grandmother and my father says, in life, there's full of magic. And the thing is you curse yourself or you free yourself with this magic. And the magic is done with the power of the word. What is your belief system? If you like your dream, continue. But if you don't like it, you have the power to break that curse and break the excuses, justifications, and start a new dream. And this is one of the things that the Toltec word offers. It offers a blank canvas so you can start over and now create from the heart.
I love that. That's amazing. If somebody listening to this right now just feels like they are really out of alignment, if you want to say, with their authentic self, and they really don't know who they are anymore, what would you say to them to help rediscover and reconnect with their authentic self and unlearn everything that is holding them back from their authentic self.
Follow your consciousness. Follow what you feel inside. When I was in this struggle, like you say right now, sister, in my dad having the heart attack, I remember going to a Borders bookstore back then, and I opened this book by Christopher Reeve, the actor who plays Superman, who got paralyzed and hated God. But in that book, he said nothing is impossible, and he teach how he went to love God once again, how he saw people who got paralyzed like him. But I opened the book magically, and it was a quote by Abraham Lincoln that said, "If I do good, I feel good, and if I do bad, I feel bad." That's my religion. So that's what I would say to everybody. Just follow this simple common sense. There's no need to create a big story to gossip about yourself or to recreate stories of excuses why you're not changing. No, just be truthful to yourself. And with this common sense, your life can change. I assure you, because you're now awakened to serve the love of your life. And we all have bad and good days. Doesn't matter who we are. But when we're truthful to them, we can overcome any day. Like my grandmother said, "Son, we can control the weather." And I was like a child saying, "We can make it rain." No, don't be silly. We can control our emotions. Our emotions come and go. And how we control them is to respect our word and how we speak to ourselves.
And I think the other thing is acceptance too, is forgiving ourselves for our past or whatever we might have done that has been bad, just accepting that it was, but now today could be a different story, just like that. We could change it just like that, which is beautiful. So I love that.
That is very powerful, Sita, what you just said, because it's a foundation of a new start. Let's say, like, I forgive myself from doing everything I did. I don't have the right to ask for forgiveness to whoever I hurt, because I cannot, I cannot choose for them. If I hurt somebody in the past, it's up to them to forgive me or not. But if I really want to forgiveness, is to not repeat those things again and to clean my dream from now on. And this is where I really live in gratitude and forgiveness. And this is one thing that, that many people, like I did before, I used to use the people that I hurt in the past to not change myself, thinking that I had to be forgiven until they forgive me. No, they're wounded. They need to heal themselves. But with respect to life, I would not repeat that again because I didn't know what I did. But now I know.
I love that. And if you were to say, where should somebody begin to start a healing journey, as you did, is developing the consciousness, the awareness, the acceptance, the forgiveness, but where, like, if you were to provide some tools, what, besides the agreements, what would be some tools you would recommend to start a healing journey?
Well, one thing that my father taught me, and when I lost my eyesight, is to look into the mirror. And when I lost my eyesight, the first thing that I saw was my own reflection. And I imagined that I've never seen that person before, but I was seeing the person who's always loyal to me. And it's that one that I live in, those eyes, they will follow me to hell. They will follow me to heaven, but they just like a puppy want to be with me. Now, how can I repay? How can I be grateful to that person? And that's when it begins, because we all know what we live and what we do. And when we speak it to somebody, we distort it. It's not real, but we can really understand, because this is the awakening. This is what the people call it, the third eye opens up. It's a consciousness. Because if you begin doing things that are negative, you're going to even go deeper and deeper, because now you're knowing that you're going against yourself. That's why the acceptance, like you said earlier, acceptance, I did this, I did that, but I don't want to do it anymore. I'm here for you. I'm loyal to the love of my life. This is the love of my life. And I cannot give what I don't have. If I give this love to myself, I can give it to this little divine being, and it will just wake up and wiggle its tail and go to my partner, the same thing with my family, because then it's not, at presence. And many people mistake like a master, a guru, a shaman, or curandera, that they have this big presence of love. It's just respect. There's no special powers. It's no more Shakti or any other energy. It's just respect for life. And when you have respect for life, the doors open.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. I love that you said just the simplest thing, look at yourself in the eyes and look at deepness into your eyes and see the soul that is wanting to heal and seek that and keep seeking that. And I truly believe if we don't love ourselves wholly and completely, we can't give as much love that the world is deserving, you know, of and we are able to provide that as long as we love ourselves truly and wholly, which is a challenging journey. I mean, I think so many of us, like, because it's the beliefs and the stories we tell ourselves, we're our worst enemies sometimes. So it's a hard journey, but it's such a beautiful journey. I mean, just to seeing the light in your eyes, you could tell that you fully love yourself and you love the planet and you love to give so much of from your soul and your heart. And it's beautiful. I see it. I see the reflection. So moving into, well, I guess this kind of moves into the fifth agreement, because I know the fifth agreement talks about the doubt. So how can we begin to question what we believe to begin with?
Well, the thing's just to put attention. How does it makes you feel? And if it was doubt that got us into suffering, that we cannot do it, that we can overcome it, let it be doubt to get us back into heaven. Like I say, I'm not perfect. I'm not meant for love. I can never change. I can never love again. Is that real? Is that really real? Or am I just being a victim, a powerful victim? And this is when everything begins to change without our negativity. It is like Jesus saying to the devil, stand behind me, Satan. It's like Buddha saying to Mara, you will not build your home here again, architect. I'm here. I'm here to take care of Divine Mother. I'm here. I'm present. And then it's the power of storytelling. What story would you tell yourself and believe in that will give you the strength to overcome any illusion that life throws at you? Because life happens, you know. The spider will always be doing a spider web for the mosquitoes or flies to get caught on. Life happens. So in doing this, like Master Toltec says, we're here in survival mode. We're surviving from ourselves. We're surviving for what happens outside. That's why when something happens outside, we don't take it personally, because it has nothing to do with us. Now we can see ourselves, how are we using the stories to create the art that we live in, because everybody's life is a masterpiece of art. And when they wake up, they can choose what kind of art they want to create in life. That's why in the fifth agreement, we call ourselves messengers, because we deliver a message. But what is the story and what's the message that we give to the people we love with all our hearts and to ourselves? And when we are about to deliver the story and doubt comes in, you can never give that story. You can never be yourself. You can never do your best. Is that really true? Stand behind me. Architect, do not build your home here anymore. I have the power in my word and the impeccability of the word. And in Latin, impeccability means without sin. And for me, sin is a makeup word to enslave ourselves with whatever action that happened that we don't want to go over. Because when we forgive ourselves, we wash away from sin and it's no longer a part of our life. And many people talk about re-entry. There's no re-entry when you wake up. It's like when you wake up from a kindergarten, elementary, you go to high school and you want to go back to elementary. You cannot go back to elementary. You're going to college now, or you're going to work in wherever you want to do in life. You cannot go backwards. You go forward. So I know that there's no re-entry. It just ghost town. And ghost town is a word that we don't believe belong in there anymore. And that's when we use the power of our message that we have inside. Especially doubt is the one that guides us, because doubt introduces us to fear. Now, fear, that energy deserves our respect, because it's an indicator that our body is telling us we're in trouble.
And take action. Yeah. And so talking about this doubt brings us into the fifth agreement, which is be skeptical. So I want to kind of break it apart. So be skeptical. Can you explain this a little deeper? Because it could sound like negative per se, like why should we be skeptical of what others say to us? But can you go into more explaining what this means, be skeptical in relation to us?
Yes, it's to be skeptical of our own poisonous thoughts. Be skeptical of the I can't. I will never change. It is like saying, it's like if one goes to rehab and says, I can never change. I will always be a drug addict. I will always use. And then you begin being skeptical of that belief system, saying, hey, I can change. I will change. I'm skeptical of my poison. So is the scorpion no longer sting itself with its own tail? And then it's what we begin learning, because our tail, our poison is our own thought. And like a rattlesnake, the rattlesnake, when it's young, it cannot control its emotional poison. It will bite. But when the rattlesnake matures and gets bigger, it even has more poison. But the difference it learns how to control it. And this is the power of being skeptical of our own poison, or I say our own negativity. Being skeptical, but we're listening now with the heart, saying, I will not use the poison that comes out of me to hurt you, Divine Mother. That it ends. So the fifth agreement is like the graduation of the Toltec, because it's based on messenger training, which is another form of saying the art of dreaming. That is the art of living life. So when you wake up, this is what an elder lives by in our Toltec tradition, because this is the foundations of a lifestyle. It's not a religion. It's just a way of life.
And so the second part is listen and learn. So obviously you kind of touched on that a little bit, but if you could go into depth more about that.
It's not afraid to feel. It's not afraid to feel. Like if you're in an abusive relationship and you want freedom, you're going to have a voice. It doesn't mean you're going to not feel. You're going to feel the uncomfortableness, but you're going to go through the discomfort to get comfortable again. We're not afraid to feel, because we're listening to the heart. We took the order. Some say we're taking one for the team, but we're getting there because we cannot betray our consciousness. So we overcome all the negativity to not be the victim that we once was.
Wow. And I know, actually, I was reading in the beginning of this book, I believe your father was saying that he wrote just the four agreements at first because he didn't believe we were ready to hear the fifth agreement. And why is that? Is it because, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
No, I was just wondering, is it because the fifth agreement is really putting all the four agreements into play, into work, and it takes, learning what the four agreements and implementing that, and then the fifth is actually taking this into your life with action.
Yes, because everybody was still attached to their dream, to their belief system. So they cannot recreate a dream. They cannot control the message if they believe that they're the victim. Once they become impeccable with the word, not take anything personal, and make assumptions and believe in themselves, then you can be skeptical of your negativity because you're in control of your life. But in that time when he was teaching it in 1995 or in the 1990s, people only wanted baby steps. It was a brand new introduction to the mind, especially, moving the intent in intention instead. The intention was just like what the mind wants, what the mind think it wants. But when you get into the fifth agreement, it's basically following intent coming out of you. Many people channel, but many people don't admit that they're channeling from their heart. They don't respect themselves, that they think they're channeling somebody else, but it's themselves, it's their pure heart. And this is one thing that the fifth agreement is to channel your own heart, your own awareness. You'll be your own teacher, you'll be your own apprentice. And back then, when he was teaching it, nobody wanted that. Everybody tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Make a line of 5 hours just to get a Shaktipa, and then I'm blessed. And then next day, I need another one. Yeah. Not the fifth agreement, you give it to yourself, because there's no longer superstition. You have the power to be creating a powerful story, like an altar, where you're the power object and you place yourself, and the altar is life itself. So it comes a moment in life, you don't know where you're going to go. You think you're going to go right and you go left. And when you go left, you meet people, either you learn something or you share something.
Oh, I just lost.
Sorry.
Oh, I lost you for a second. Yeah,
yes.
We're always learning. I believe life is just a bundle of lessons we're meant to learn to get to our highest self. I completely agree. And I think that's really beautifully said. That's so true. Back in the 90s, I think that personal development wasn't something that so many people seeked. And I think it's very different these days. I think people really are being, or they're presented with more awareness of what suffering looks like, these limiting beliefs, and really they seek more wholeness within themselves opposed to things outside. And I think that's so beautiful of how the world is transitioning, that so many people just want to feel good, and not by outside circumstances, because outside circumstances can always be taken away from us. So it's so beautiful. So if somebody were to implement all these 5 agreements into their life, what would you say will begin to change?
Well, you'll become making of your life a masterpiece of art, and you'll be free to create and live however you want to live, express how you want to live, love whoever you want to love however you want to love, help whoever want to help, is to support your consciousness to be the best, supporter of life that you can be. And this is when everything begins to change. And it's so beautiful when, like you said earlier, acceptance is so powerful. No longer believing fake it till you make it. No, because we cannot teach that to the little ones anymore. Now we teach them how to live, how to be. And that's the flame that we give to somebody. Because when you begin being the light, that's the footprint that you leave behind. And not only that, you're not even aware you're doing it. You're just enjoying every day, because every day is a gift. So in the past, many people who had that experience become enlightened and aware. In this way of living, people don't have to go to darkness in that way to find light. We can just support light from light. And this is the dream of humanity that we're waking up from, because I believe, like my mother said, Divine Mother is awakening in all her forms.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I know you consider yourself a shaman, and you actually share in some of your books the wisdom of the shamans. I keep on saying that incorrectly. Sorry. So what is actually a shaman? What do you consider that to be? Or what is it?
the shaman is used in many words because it was Nahuatl, shaman, Swami, but it is one that is serving nature and not the nature outside, the nature within. And when you begin serving the nature within, it's like a jaguar, wakes up and begins to stalk and clean up the jungle, protecting the jungle. Then it realizes that the whole world is our jungle and our whole world is in Mother Earth's hands. So it's one that finds its medicine by all the darkness that we have gone to, because that medicine is what heals us and woke us up. Now a shaman shares that medicine.
That's so beautiful. Wow. And so if you could share, actually, like I said, the 5th agreement is your first book, which you didn't even intend to be author, but you are an author of 5 books, coming on 6, which you said is coming out in June, which is absolutely amazing. Can you share a little tidbit of each of your books?
Yes, the 5th agreement was with my father, Awakening and Dreaming. My second book with my partner, Tammy Hudman, is my good friend of Rattlesnake, is this one right here. And this one explains what I shared earlier about my life, how I got there. Because when I was speaking one presentation, I was going to speak about the 5 agreements, but my partner and I were writing this book, and she told me, you're still hiding the skeletons. It's time to clean yourself by. And one day I went in public, sister. I was going to give a whole lecture of the 5th agreement. I went 2 hours explaining my life. And when I came out the stage, someone approached me and says, Jose, I always put people like you on a pedestal thinking I cannot reach that. But when you speak about your own life, it makes me feel like we are reachable, that we're the same. And that inspired me so much that later we make a little book of pictures. Ripples of Wisdom is a picture book. And then came the wisdom of the shamans that I explained, in different storytelling, because I'm a storyteller. Yeah. That I learned the stories, I just had the vision and told them, because we all are storytellers. And what I share in that book is that you can be your own storyteller from your own experiences, from your own dreams, and create a beautiful thing that you don't have to point the finger to people, be this, be that. No, the story, just everybody can fit into a story. And that's the beautiful thing. Everybody can see themselves as a character in a story. And then after that book is the medicine bag. And the medicine bag is really what we have dear in our heart. If our heart has poison, anger, resentment, it's not a medicine bag. It's a wounded bag, a bag of wounds. So in that book, we share how to open that bag up, take all the wounds out, clean it up, and put everything that's sacred to us. If it's the Toltec work, it's Christianity, Buddhism, whatever opens your, art, whatever it is that you hold dear that makes you inspired, and then you close it and you're true to that. You're true to you. because when you're true to you, that's what makes the healing of life. And
Beautiful.
now the animal book that's coming out, this is one of my favorite topics right now, because many people think that we're guided by the animals. No, we reflect them. They inspire us to be our best. Like the jaguar inspires me to be the best. And I use all the characteristics of the jaguar or what it does so I can apply it in my own life and use it like metaphors. But it's not that the jaguar comes to me. No, I'm using because the jaguar doesn't even know that I'm existing. It's just doing its own life. Like a dog doesn't know that it's a dog, you know, it's just living its own life. And that's the way I feel of humanity. So humanity is the shape shifter. It can shape into any things. And you can see our world is founded by reflection. We see the ducks flying. We see airplanes flying. We see ants building their homes. We build pyramids too. So it comes in every little thing. And the most beautiful thing is that we come back to being our true self. Yes, we have knowledge and we were corrupted by knowledge, but we come back to being that innocent creature that was born full of life. And this is when we really know that the human is one of the greatest animals that protects this earth. And that's why in Christianity, they called us angels. The human with wings, or the feathered serpent, the snake with the wings, that's the impossible. And the impossible in the dream of the planet is to be you.
That's so exciting. I think the medicine bag sounds like a book that everybody should read. I love how you describe it, because it's so true that what we carry around, what is that filled with? Because everything in our life is has meaning per se, and I believe that it forms these beliefs we have about ourselves. So whatever we're carrying around, those are forming beliefs, and whatever we believe, we put into our life and into action and everything. So they all sound absolutely amazing. And I'm just so great that I'm so grateful that you share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your stories with us, because they're beautiful and we could all relate to everything you share. So it's beautiful. And I was going to say, actually, the other thing to mention that you mentioned in your book is that the truth always exists. It doesn't need to prove itself, but a lie will only remain a lie as long as we believe it. And I love to pull that out, because all these lies we tell ourselves, is when we stop believing in them, they're no longer true. And we get to create what is actually true. And we could believe that, because that is our truth. Right. So I love that. So if you were to leave one piece of advice with us, or one tool that we should implement into our life to start, living our true authentic self wholly and completely in love of our life, what would you leave with us?
That we don't need no validation at all. We don't need approval at all. When you're the artist, don't give your power away for somebody to take your art away. We don't need validations. Like I know so many artists that they're in the internet, and because they just have like 5 likes or 6 likes, they judge themselves that they're not great artists. It's because they're looking for validation to be accepted by life. Forget about that. You know what feels good to you, and you have the gift to do it right now. You are alive. Enjoy this beautiful moment. Enjoy this now, and know that we are on vacation. That we're on vacation. This life is a vacation. And I tell you one thing, if we lose our suitcase, let's not ruin our vacation, because we are on vacation at the suitcase, and we can get another suitcase, meaning the mythology, the metaphor of the suitcase is a dream. It could be a relationship, it could be a work. If life give it to us, we enjoy it, we let it go. Like my grandma said, we're doing the magical thing of life every day. We breathe, we attach, we let the air go, we detach. Imagine if we just take one breath and don't want to let that breath air go, we will suffocate. We will rob the body from breathing. And this is what I tell you, be the artist that you were born to be. And every time you have a gift, an idea, don't rob the world, like a master said once. Don't rob it from the world. Express it, live it, create it, feel alive. And somebody else will get inspired to take it to another level.
Beautifully said. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So where could people best find you or your family's tradition, learn more? Where can we best find you?
Well, you can find in my family's website, miguelruiz.com. And you can find me in Instagram. Every Monday in the morning, I do a live presentation ever since the COVID happened. I'm going off to my 49th week of sharing every Monday. So if you would like to listen, like with open heart, I just begin talking in front of the camera.
Amazing. Oh, thank you for that. Well, this has been such an honor. I so appreciate everything you shared today. It's so beautiful. Everybody, go get the fifth agreement, the Four Agreements. It's still a bestseller. I think there's been over 9 million copies sold of your father's book. Like I said, if you haven't read it, you're probably living under a rock. You need to come out of the rock and read the book, because it's such a foundational piece, and this is as well. And of course, your other books just sound so fascinating, and I can't wait to dig into some of them. So thank you again for your time and your wisdom and your heart and the light you are.
Thank you for everything you do, Sister, and for inviting me for this opportunity. All my love and gratitude.
Absolutely. Same to you. Thank you.